Hello, welcome to the video. Definitely need my sunglasses on for this one. So I've got a second generation Honda N-Box for you today, JF3 model code. The second generation codes are JF3 for two-wheel drive, JF4 for the four-wheel drive. So to give this its full title, it's a 2020 car, by the way. It's a Honda N-Box Custom GEX Turbo Honda Sensing. That is the top spec that was available when this was sold brand new. So turbocharged and all various toys and bits and pieces inside and outside that I will show you as we go round. This one was auction grade 4.5 with an A grade exterior. Pretty rare that is, but I think it will become obvious as we go round why it got that grading. Certainly obvious to me standing here next to it. I don't know how well it comes across on video, but anyway, there you go. It's covered 53,400 miles. So let's have a look around the outside to start with. Beautiful pearl white paint, as will no doubt be obvious to you. The N-Boxes, this generation of N-Box has got quite a lot of electronic tech on it. So we've got, as well as the dash cam just there, we've got a camera there for the Honda Sensing. I'll give you an idea of what Honda Sensing does as we go around. You can't see it, but in there we've got a radar as well, and then as we go around there's radar sensors at the back too. They look like parking sensors, but they're not. So full LED lights on these, LED indicators, headlights both on the main and the dip beam, and the fog lights. 15-inch alloy wheels, those are the factory wheels most commonly seen on the turbos. A brand new set of tyres on them. This one's got optional extra side hazard notification, so if you're close to something on the left or the right hand side, not front and back but left and right, it'll beep like crazy to let you know. Keyless entry, keyless start. The mirrors fold automatically, so if I just lock it on the key, you'll see them fold like that. As you'd probably expect from a top spec model, it's got power sliding doors on both sides, so I'll just demonstrate that. Press and hold the button there, and there we go. Same on the other side. And close them both again. Like that. If you've got the power sliding doors switched off, as I often do on these cars, they've also got a soft close feature, so if you didn't quite close the sliding door completely, then it will finish the job off for you and just pull the door in and latch it properly. Privacy glass on the rear side doors and on the tailgate. LED lights continue on the rear here. So proximity sensor there, and then this is a sensor for the Honda Sensing. It will tell you if you've got a car close behind you, so it's called rollback or accidental reversing protection, I think, to stop you reversing into something that's right behind you. Those four little blobs there are to indicate where to put your hand to open the tailgate, like that. We've got the fog light down at the bottom there. The second generation cars still get the special two-way mirror. I'll show you that when we're inside the car that the first generation had. Looking at the headlights then, they're one of the other things within the suite of Honda sensing electronics gizmos is automatic headlights. That's both automatic in terms of switching them on and off, and then automatic dip and main beam. Let's have a quick look under the bonnet then. Look at this, you prepare the paintwork beautifully and then nature throws all these little bits all over it. Never mind. Okay, so this is a K car. I didn't mention that at the start actually. I maybe assumed that was kind of obvious, but yeah, this is a K car, meaning this is a 658cc engine. It's a petrol engine, 3-cylinder with a timing chain rather than a timing belt, so no timing belt to worry about. The naturally aspirated version has a VTEC. The turbocharged version doesn't. This is a turbocharged version, so no VTEC on this, but it feels fairly sprightly. It's certainly more than adequate for the car. So in terms of preparation, it's had an engine oil and oil filter change, engine air filter as well, transmission service with a new transmission filter in there too. Apart from the tyres, didn't need anything else to get it through the MOT. Passed the MOT with no advisories, I'm pleased to say, and also passed the IVA test, so it's pretty much registered now and ready to go. I feel like I should mention the slamming of the bonnet. I don't know whether it bothers any of you or not, but just in case it does. I used to always be a gentle presser of the bonnet, but the bonnets on these K cars are quite thin. And when I took one of these cars for an IVA test once, I ended up with a dent in the bonnet because presumably the person who closed the bonnet, I didn't see them do it, was also a presser. So since then I have become a slammer, which goes against the grain a little bit for me, but it's actually better for the for my sanity and for preserving the smooth metal finish on the bonnet. There you go, just in case you were wondering. Let's have a look inside. All right, I've turned the car around slightly to get the maximum amount of light to the interior, because it's quite a dark interior, so that it comes across on camera. Hopefully it shows up all right. So in terms of locking and unlocking the car, we can do that with the key, with the buttons on the key, or with the key in my pocket. The car's unlocked at the moment. If I press that, I'll lock it and the mirrors automatically fold in. Now to unlock, I can just do that, put my hand in there like that, and then it's open again. Crikey, a Mitsubishi mat in the Honda, how terrible. Not really, I love Mitsubishis too, but I'll just move it out of the way so I can illustrate to you the lovely carpets. Lovely, albeit with bits that have blown in from outside. So if you're thinking, well, he hasn't really vacuumed that very well, I can assure you, dear viewer, I have, but little bits have blown in. I'll stop ranting about them now. So one of the things I really enjoy when cars arrive, even now after all the cars I've imported, is working out the little snippets of to indicate the car's story in Japan. That was helped in this case by the dash cam. So I can tell anyway, you can tell just by looking at this car that it's been well looked after. But the dash cam has been recording throughout, and I had a lovely video of the previous owner cleaning it before it presumably was taken to the dealership to be part exchanged. Why am I rambling about that? Because one of the other things that it also has is it still has on, and this happens from time to time with Japanese buyers, they leave just little bits of the protective plastic covering on some parts of the car, just as a reminder, or harking back to when it was new. So these sun visors have had that plastic covering on, presumably, unless they've been taken off and refitted with new ones, but I'll continue to be maybe naive or maybe not and say that's been on there since new. I wouldn't mind betting it has, because there were a few other bits of plastic that had also been on there since new, but I've taken them off because they picked up some dirt along the edges, and I thought they tipped over into looking a bit shabby rather than a bit of nostalgia to when the car was new. But anyway, these look like they've been on there all the time since 2020. So I'll move back out again, start in the usual way with the door. The door's open to a full 90 degrees. from the body of the car, making it nice and easy to get in and out. And the seat height is also fairly high on these too, or it can be. So it's adjustable on the driver's seat with that one there, not on the passenger side, and then that's for the height of the backrest. Really nice, half leather, half kind of velour, not really Alcantara I wouldn't say, but I'm not even sure if this is real leather or if it's pretend leather, to be honest. So let's, for the sake of accuracy, let's not be 100% that it's leather, but half leather seats look really smart. It's got an original set of factory mats with the extra bits. So what I mean by that is you have the mat there, then you have an extra bit there, you have a little extra bit there on the piece of trim that goes to the back, and then the passenger side mat over there. Back to the door then, we have a cup holder here, little storage area there, another little storage area there for pens and stuff. If you own one of these, be careful not to use that to pull the door closed, because it's not really strong enough for that. Obviously that's where you need to have your hand for pulling the door closed. Separate tweeters and woofers for the stereo, both in the front and the back. So mirror controls, central locking controls, and window controls there. Another cup holder here, and a few little sort of change or whatever knick-knack pockets there. Storage bin there behind the steering wheel. Come down to these switches then. There are the switches for the power doors, keyless starting. Here we can switch off the collision mitigation braking system. That's another Honda sensing feature, as is the LCAS lane keeping assist function. Switch it off there, and then the familiar traction control off just there. There's the rear fog light switch, added by yours truly for the IVA test. So we have the indicators on the right, as will probably be familiar to you already if you've seen some of my other videos, with the auto light control there, front fogs there. This is another Honda sensing feature, so adaptive cruise control. You set it with these, and then you adjust the distance that you want it to keep from the car in front with there. This is to scroll through the information on the screen up there, and I'll show you that in a little while. Audio controls here. We've got the flappy paddles. In my view, they're pretty useless on a car like this. Why do I say that? Well, it doesn't have actual gears. So this is a CVT automatic transmission, and love them or hate them, they are the most efficient transmission for squeezing everything that can be squeezed out of the restricted engine size that K cars have. But because it's a CVT, it doesn't have any actual gears. So what these are doing basically is they're telling the transmission control computer to pretend that there are gears and shift, give the driver the sensation of shifting between them using the flappy paddles. I've driven a lot of N boxes for a lot of miles. I've never felt that it's better driving with them than without them. But hey ho, if you like that sort of thing, you've got them there. Let's move on. I didn't point out leather steering wheel, by the way, very nice. On the left we have the wipers with variable intermittent wipe there. Moving over here, gauge illumination in the Econ button. So these cars have start stop, and if you press that, it switches the start stop off, and it also changes the programming parameters of the engine transmission control computers such that you get slightly more acceleration at the expense of fuel consumption. Leather shift knob there. So down here we have, remember I mentioned earlier the side sonar to tell you if you're close to an obstacle on the left or right hand side. Well, that's where you can switch them off there, and then that's the electronic toll collection system built into the dash on this car. Down here, that's better, we have obviously the accelerator and the brake, and then the handbrake is actually operated by foot. So you press and release like that, and then press it back on, you just hear it ratchet like that. A couple of USB power ports there, and then automatic climate control. We've got seat heaters with 2 levels of heating for the driver and the front seat passenger just there. And then whoever had this car spec'd, they've spec'd a super large screen, which is really quite useful. You get a great view for the reversing camera. Okay, so it's getting super hot. I'm going to start the car up, open some more windows, and show you some of the functionality. When you close the door, you get that little noise, and the Honda logo welcomes you. And then foot on the brake. That beep is to tell me to put my seatbelt on. I'm going to open some of the windows again so I don't expire. Okay, so still thinks it's in Japan, as a lot of the navigation systems do. Unfortunately, it's not as simple as just putting a UK map card in and making it work in the UK. Hear from you. Okay, so reversing camera, there it is. Now notice also when I did that, going a bit closer, the display comes up like that, and if I can hold that in there so you can see it, there we go. So when you're manoeuvring, you get that little display to show you which way the wheels are pointing, to avoid you, I presume, driving into a wall by thinking that you've got the steering straight when actually you haven't. So quite a nice little touch. The speedometer, as you may have spotted already, has been converted to miles an hour for the IVA test. Okay, so let's tell you a little bit about the audio options. You may spot TV, those there, and the equivalent on the other side are TV aerials. Unfortunately, you're not going to be able to watch TV in this country, but they are there. FM, AM. I'm just trying to see how far up the FM frequency range this one goes. Because some of the more modern stereos have slightly more overlap. You'll have heard me, if you've seen my videos before, you'll have heard me talking about how Japan's FM frequency range is lower than ours in the UK, but a lot of the more modern stereos, they seem to go higher. So this one goes up to 99 megahertz. So if you want to listen to Radio 1 or Radio 4, not sure where Radio 3 is, but they'll be within that range. But then ours goes up to 105, I think, so you've not quite got the full range. So your other options are Bluetooth, and you can put music on an SD card or a USB stick and listen to it that way too. You can also watch films, although you'd have to do some jiggery pokery with this it does flip down to get the disc in, because the disc slot is just behind there like that. Okay, I'll switch off now. This has got a front and rear dash cam system, and it's quite nice and neat with remote recording, which is just down there. Auxiliary power socket just there, another cup holder there, more storage here, and more storage in there. Opening the glove box has reminded me to tell you that I've also changed the cabin air filter too. So in here, I've shown you the two keys already, and then we have some maintenance records and owner's manual just there. So on the passenger door we have storage there. We don't have the cup holder lower down, but we have one there, and then that same little pocket just there that we had before. This is the part of the video where I move on to look at the rear seat accommodation, but before I do that, the GEX models, the top spec models, get something called a super sliding seat, front seat. This seat here that we're looking at. So you may notice it, or you may not have noticed, these things are getting absolutely everywhere. I said I wasn't going to whinge about them again, didn't I? Never mind. You may have noticed that this seat has really long tracks, and it is a super sliding seat, so we can control it from here. I can't bring it all the way forward because it goes all the way to there. Now, no one could sit in the seat like that, but that's not the aim. The aim is to create a whole host of space just here. And I will attempt to demonstrate some of the uses of that. Now, I can't claim credit for any of this. This is straight out of the Honda marketing information in 2020 when this car was released. And the first one of those things is that if you need to get into the car when it's really rainy or really windy, and if you've ever been to Japan in rainy season, you will know that sometimes it is very, very good at doing both of those things at the same time. It's safer to get in through the sliding door, which isn't as affected by the wind as the front doors opening outwards. So you can open the car, in fact you could open it on the key before you even get to it with the power sliding door, and from here you can get in directly to the front seat, which is a bit of a squeeze but can be done. Thus, there we go. Okay, so that's situation number one. I'm going to get out the normal way. So situation number two, a variation on the theme, is that you can get in the side door, you can get your child sorted out. There's my child, much more compliant than the real thing. So you can get your child sorted out, and then rather than having to go round, you can get straight in to the driver's seat there, and as we've just demonstrated. And then the final option that features in the Honda marketing information. So these seats slide forwards and backwards, by the way. So I'll just get my child strapped in properly. This is obviously the correct way to secure a child in the car. There you go. Keep both eyes clear so that they can see. The final situation, and you'll have to use some imagination for this, as if you haven't already, because we're pretending we're driving along with the passenger door open. The final situation is that this seat goes so far back that while you're driving along, you can actually reach and pass your child a biscuit or other snack of choice very easily without straining and pulling muscles stretching backwards from the front to the rear of the car like that. So there you go, a few interesting use cases of the super sliding seat. Another one which we should also try is this scenario. Let's just whip that out of there like that, put it there, and this is answering the question, can I sleep in it? Well, I don't think I'd describe it as a particularly comfortable night's sleep, but it's certainly long enough. I'm 6 feet tall, by the way. So yeah, perfectly, certainly long enough, but you'd want a good bit of foam or something to smooth out the various contours of the seats to make it a little bit more comfortable, I would say. Let's continue our review of the rear seat accommodation then. So I guess I call them mat pockets, if anyone still uses mat pockets. I realise that I commonly describe these as being suitable for takeaway food or something like that, but then I was also showing my age there, because I'm not sure many of us actually go to the takeaway to get the food anymore. Maybe we do, but anyway, 3 kilo weight limit on that one. Little pockets there, there and there. So there's the controls for this super sliding seat. That one to slide it forwards and backwards, and then that one to adjust the angle. So actually, when I was showing you getting into the front, what I should have done is that, wasn't it? Because that would have made it a whole lot easier. So I'm not sure I was quite demonstrating the super sliding seat to its full potential, but anyway, we've made amends now. Bring it back. Put it back in position like that. Armrests for both of the front seat passengers and the rear seat passengers as well. We don't have the bench style seating in the front, and on this car there's a gap, and I presume that's to facilitate all the functionality of the super sliding seat that we've talked about. So these seats slide forwards and backwards. There's a little tab just there to control that. So we have woofer down there, tweeter up there, cup holder there. These seats have both got ISOFIX points. We've also got the additional, probably familiar functionality with Honda Magic Seats, whereby the bases of the seats flip up like that to give you a really useful amount of space down there on the floor, either if you're traveling with pets. By the way, if you are traveling with pets, this is quite a nice low threshold for them to get into and out of the vehicle. Okay, and then what these seats also do is they lie flat like that. So I'll just do that to get the camera in, and then fold the seats the same on the other side so you can get a better look. Before I do, so this is for child seats that have got a top tether, and then you can also adjust the seat sliding from the boot. Really useful if you haven't got rear seat passengers and you've got the seats set as far back as they will go, and then you realise that you need more boot space, so you can just grab this from within the tailgate and push the seat forward like that, and then it latches into position thus. So then with this seat folded flat as well, and it's not going to go because I just folded it all the way forward. There we go. You can see we've got really quite a good amount of boot space there, an amount of space that would put a lot of much larger cars to shame. I'm going to try and show it from the side because the light's not ideal. So yeah, plenty of space, and particularly with the super sliding seat, if you put that all the way, in fact it doesn't want to lock all the way forward, but if you put that, where's the furthest it will latch? There we go. You can see you've got a really good amount of space for long items there too. While we're looking at the interior, let's have a look up at the headlining, which, as you will see, is dark, unlike many other N boxes and in fact K cars in general. Now you may find yourself worried that that makes the whole interior feel a bit oppressive, and each to their own on that. It doesn't for me actually, it just feels like a really nice sort of premium place to be, but yeah, just something else that differentiates it from some of the other cars featured on the channel so far. Under here we have the jack and the tyre inflation kit, towing eye, etc, etc, and a little bit of extra storage space for things that you don't want on display. Okay, let's tell you a little bit about what it's like to drive this second generation Honda N box. I feel like I repeat myself when I do these driving section videos, but we'll go through it anyway. So the first impression, I think, when you sit in it is it feels like a much bigger car from the inside than its external measurements would suggest. Lots of space in front of you, lots of space above you. I'm 6 feet tall, there's still a whole load of room above my head. Talked before about the dark headlining. I quite like it. I don't think it feels oppressive as you might think it would from first glance. There's plenty of light coming into the cabin, so it feels like a really nice, airy, comfortable, spacious place to be. The seat is adjustable for height. I've got it quite near the lowest setting for my own preference. I've got the steering wheel as high as it will go to give me plenty of space for my legs to get in underneath. So keys in my pocket. When you're ready to go, just put your foot on the brake the engine start-stop button lights up, and then you press it and the dials go through all their self-check and everything, and the car starts up. I've got the second camera today on the screen because there's quite a few things to talk about with that. So push the button in and then down into drive. You've got the analog display next to the shifter, and then obviously you see it comes up on the screen. And then we take our foot off the brake and start moving. If we were on a hill, facing up a hill, we wouldn't roll back, but we also wouldn't start rolling forwards because we were on a hill. But as soon as we started to accelerate, then the car would move forwards. You'll have heard it lock itself automatically as we reached, I think it's about 20 kilometers an hour. And then you'll see that arc light above the fuel gauge, green at the moment because we're just pootling along. And if I accelerate a little bit harder, it goes white like that. Indicators on the right, as they are with most Japanese import vehicles, and I am indicating to turn right, but there is an unusual amount of traffic going that way, so I think we're going to reverse and go the other way instead. That enables me to show you the manoeuvring steering angle indicator there. Just while you're in the middle of manoeuvring, it shows that, and then once you start moving a little bit more quickly, it'll go back to the average speed display. Sorry, I don't mean average speed, do I? I mean distance remaining, average fuel consumption, and current live fuel consumption display. There we go. So first thing I could demonstrate, I guess, is cruise control, which I activate by pressing main on the steering wheel. You'll see the ACC and LCAS lane keeping assist lights came on. And then if I press set, there we go, the cruise control is set. Now the speedometer is in miles per hour, but the car thinks it's still all running in kilometers because that is just a replacement dial face for the speedometer. The reason for telling you that is that the speed, the cruise control speed is displayed in kilometers per hour. I can also adjust the distance that I want to keep from the car in front. You see that car on the display getting closer and then further away as I cycle through the different options there. And then when I press on the brake, cruise control switches off. So you may notice the 40 limit that's come up on the screen there. That's one of the other Honda Sensing features that this car has got. So Honda Sensing has a functionality where it can read road signs. Designed for Japan and Japanese road signs rather than UK road signs, but it does seem to work quite nicely with speed limit signs. So not something I'd probably rely on, but nonetheless it's there and it's quite an interesting feature to have. In terms of what the car's like to drive then, one thing that I think sets it apart from the other cars featured on the channel so far is the sound deadening, the road noise dampening, which is much better in this N-Box, this second generation N-Box, than it is in the first generation and in a lot of its competitors. Obviously, I haven't done a sort of an encyclopedic comparison of all its competitors, although something to aim for certainly, but it does seem to really excel in that regard. The seats are superbly comfortable as well, definitely top tier seating in these N-Boxes, I would say. The road holding and the handling are very good. Remember, this is designed for, I suppose, ease of use and comfort rather than speed. I hope that's kind of obvious from the shape of it, but just in case it isn't. So there is a little bit of roll in the corners, perfectly acceptable, I would say, but yeah, definitely not a machine for cornering at speed. You kind of knew that anyway, I suspect, but something to mention, I suppose. You do have to get yourself used to, well, you don't have to, it can take a while to get used to how narrow the car is. So you've got an awful lot of scope for repositioning yourself within your lane without actually encroaching on the opposite lane, because these cars are really quite narrow compared to most of the more bloated stuff that we're used to driving in the UK. Okay, just going to turn around here. The beep when reversing is unavoidable, I'm afraid, so you can't switch it off, is what I'm saying. So whilst we're approaching these traffic lights, it gives me a good opportunity to demonstrate the various other things on the screen. So if we scroll through, we've got a display with average speed and driving time there, and that's the road sign display screen there if it were to have one, and that's interesting. I'll just break my commentary there to tell you about the start stop. So this vehicle has start stop, and it's quite keen. By that I mean that it'll actually cut the engine before the vehicle has come to a complete halt, and that's deliberate by design to absolutely optimize the fuel efficiency of this car. The lights are turning green now, so I come off, brake, engine starts up, and away we go again. If you don't want the start stop, then you can press the Econ button like that, and two things happened when I did that. Firstly, the Econ mode was switched off, and the second thing was the car started accelerating quite a lot more vigorously. So it just changes the mapping of the transmission and engine computers to prioritize acceleration a little bit more over fuel economy. Switch it back on and normal service is resumed. Okay, next on the display is how many kilometers till the next oil change. This is a turbocharged car, and Honda and other manufacturers in Japan actually aren't in the habit of specifying ambitious service intervals for the purposes of making the car look more appealing. They go a little bit more with what's actually good for the engine, which is really nice to see. So 5,000 kilometer, not mile, limit for oil changes for a turbocharged car. 5,000 kilometers or 6 months. And if you buy one of these, I would strongly recommend that you stick to that. We also have the option of a blank screen, so nothing at all, and then back to where we were before. So to summarise then, the N-Box, this second generation N-Box, is a very comfortable place to be, very relaxing, very easy to drive, both in the everyday driving forwards and then also manoeuvring in tight spaces. This has got sensors to warn you if there are things close down the left or right hand side, as well as the reversing camera that you've already seen, and then all the other suite of Honda sensing features. One thing I didn't mention actually is it's got, if you're at traffic lights and the car in front has set off and you haven't set off, you've not noticed for whatever reason, you've become distracted, then it will beep to remind you to get going. Where was I then? Right, so the summary, a very nice, comfortable place to be. I think the sound deadening is particularly good in this car, as is the seat comfort. And then another reason to buy it, I suppose, is if you really like all the tech, you know, the adaptive cruise control, all the other bits and pieces that this car has. Okay, that brings us to the end of our look round this 2020 Honda N-Box Custom GEX Turbo Honda Sensing. That's quite a mouthful, isn't it? But there's a lot of car within that very long name. I hope you enjoyed it. If you like the car so much that you'd like to buy it, then obviously I would love to sell it to you. My contact details are in the description of this video, so you can get in touch with me there to ask any more questions you may have and to arrange to come and have a look at it. I am frequently asked questions about insurance, and there's a link in there to a specialist insurer who can help you with a quote for K-car insurance. I'm also frequently asked about parts. I offer a parts supply service as part of my overall business. So if you're worried about getting parts, or if you need help with getting parts for one of these cars, I'd be happy to help. Again, head over to the website andrewsjapanesecars.com, and there's a page there dedicated to parts supply. You're not obliged to get your parts from me. There are lots of other options, but if you want help with it, then obviously I'm happy to do so. Okay, thanks for joining me then. Remember to consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't already, and give the video a thumbs up if you liked what you saw. I look forward to seeing you again for the next one then. Bye for now.